I want to bring in David Parkinson. He's our CBS News weather producer. So, David, what do we know right now?
So we are seeing the storm starting to make a turn back to the west, and that is good news. So we were concerned that the storm was holding together a little better than it had been, and as a result of that, it was going to get closer to the Hawaiian Islands. The sooner it looks sloppier on satellite, the better the news is in terms of wind concerns. The rain concerns, there's nothing we can do about them, but the wind, that was the big thing. So take a look at it on satellite. You can kind of sort of pick out the eye, but it's a lot less well organized than it had been. It's starting to get shorn off, which is to say the lower levels, the trade winds, are pushing it out from just being vertical. So it's 180 miles south of Honolulu, but it is moving west at 5 miles an hour. It's barely moving, and that means those bands of rain are continuing to push on. And look at just how slowly it's moving. I mean, 2 a.m. Saturday, it's just off of Maui. 2 p.m., it's just off of Oahu. And 2 a.m. Sunday, it's now finally past the chain.
Is there a point over this weekend that you really need to keep an eye on at this point?
I mean, now that it's showing a western move, so it was a north movement when I was with Vlad and Anne-Marie this morning. Now it's back to a western movement. As it's a western movement, that makes me feel a lot better. You know, we're kind of, you know, look at all the spaghettis. Every single one of them turns it. And
these are the projected, the various projections.
Right, this is the projection of where it could go. And the interesting thing about it is that not only do they all turn it, but some of them are actually turning it later than it's already turned now. So the good news is that it doesn't appear like we're going to any of the islands with the direct landfall. That's the good news. The bad news is it still remains on the front right quadrant of the storm. That is the wettest part of the storm, and as a result of that, we've got to still contend with some flooding. So we are, I think it's safe to say, clear from the worst case scenario damage to Oahu and Kauai. The interesting thing is, so this is the radar picture, and you can see right there the rain band's getting a little closer to Molokai. It's just making it to Lanai right now, and they're starting to make their way onto Maui as well. But look at the sort of clouds still jumping up. You can see the cloud tops. I kind of illuminated those on the eastern edge of the Big Island. It's still raining there heavily, but take a look at the wind direction, right? It's all coming in from the east. That's where it's all pushing it, and that's the good news, really.
David, at this point, we know it's been downgraded, right? Right. So does that mean Hawaii has avoided the worst at this point?
This is a difficult thing to say. So the official messaging from the Hurricane Center, right, is that we're still under hurricane warning. You still need to be prepared. You can't let your guard down. And all of those things are true. But there are a couple things that are important. First, it's really important to note that this is continuing to be a rainstorm. This is not a storm about the wind, and this is even less a storm about the wind.
So what does that mean if it's about rain?
It just means you've got to worry about catastrophic flooding. Okay. So the Big Island has to continue to worry about that, and the Big Island, it's going to keep raining there all weekend long. They're closing in on 3 feet. So here are some rain totals, right? 31.21 inches, and this was a couple of hours ago. I updated this graphic at 11 o'clock. I haven't called the Hurricane Center to get new numbers.
So it could be even higher.
That number's probably higher. So they're closing in on 3 feet there. But Kona, on the other side, barely seeing any rain because the mountains block it, right? It dumps all of the rain on the windward side, not on the leeward side. So that was, you know, Kona is very arid, and so the big concern was going to be, what if some of that moisture from the storm that you can see just to the left of Kona makes its way in? It looks like that's less likely to happen. So in Honolulu, we were talking like you could get 10 inches of rain. Now maybe 3 to 5 is realistic. They can probably handle 3 to 5 inches of rain. In Maui, we're talking 18 to 24, maybe a foot, maybe a little less. So we're backing down off of those numbers. We're not sounding the all clear, but I think you can start to see that we're not going to be dealing with devastation on some of the rest of the Hawaiian Islands. You know, the Big Island.
It's been a tough year.
It's been a tough year,
Hawaii,
especially for the Big Island, right? Had all of the lava concerns. They had the nuclear bomb warning, right? If you remember that one, and there was all that flooding on Kauai. That was my concern about Kauai, was they had that flooding in April. We were hoping we wouldn't see a repeat of that again, and it looks like they're going to dodge the bullet comparatively on that one. So Kauai doesn't look like it's going to get hit for at least another 12 to 24 hours. But again, we'll watch this over the next 6 to 12 hours, and then we can start to say, all right, you might be officially dodged the bullet.
All right, we'll be keeping a close eye on this weekend. David Parkinson, thank you so much for joining us.